Hey everybody, thanks for coming to our session. Sometimes I just started at how far in the corner off we are in the session. It's Thursday morning, so really appreciate you kind of making the last effort to kind of join us at this session today. I don't think that you've heard enough about AI ML in the conference this week, and you're here for yet another session. But hopefully we can make this even more relevant and fun for you, because we're here to share some insights on Amazon's approach to AI ML and how we use AI ML to really transform our customers' experiences. So for those of you who caught Werner's keynote, he did mention a few kind of approaching examples from Amazon. So maybe it's a interesting way to think about this as an extension kind of and building on kind of the Amazon stories here. So just to get a sense of the audience here, how many of you have actually kind of downloaded ChatGPT and played with it? Okay, almost everyone. And then how many of you have actually tried to build machine learning, kind of enabled solutions? Don't care what flavor it is. Great, some of you there. And how many of you guys work in organizations where you guys run ML solutions in production? Great. Okay, then this is the right audience, because obviously it's a way for us to also compare notes a little bit to see how Amazon's approach, both from a business strategy perspective, but also the lessons that we learn from technology is relevant here. And in order for us to have this broader conversation, we want to make sure that we brought in a diverse set of voices that represent different areas. So we have 3 speakers here today, and we're kind of going this sequence. So my name is Chung. I lead a program in AWS Innovations called Learning from Amazon. And that's what we're here to do. So I kind of kick off with the first section to share some use case examples from Amazon's retail on how they use AI to improve customer experiences.
I'm Ricardo Allen. I'm leading the innovation transformation team for Latin America.
And my name is Kendra Reed. I'm part of the AWS data strategy team. So I help a lot of customers like yourselves think about their data strategy in order to build those ML models and generative AI pieces.
Yep, so I will kind of cover what Werner kind of called the good old AI use cases. Ricardo has the fun job of covering some Gen AI thinking approaches. And Kendra has the most important job to share some lessons learned. So you'll kind of hear from all of us through this session today. So, gentlemen. All right, so let's dive in. I just want to share a bit of a context behind all of these things before we get into use cases. And we'll start by peering into the minds of Amazon's founder, obviously Jeff Bezos, when he kind of thought about what does Amazon.com stand for about 25 years ago. Annually he writes a letter to the shareholders. Obviously in the last few years, Andy Jassy, who used to be the CEO of AWS, now the CEO of Amazon, has been kind of writing an annual letter to the shareholders. And 25 years ago, Jeff basically told all the shareholders, and this was the second shareholder letter that he wrote. He was just a small-time startup founder running an online bookshop, but he has some audacious thinking that you see here. And some of the things are really notable. The idea of customer centricity isn't just one of our core values. It is the mission of Amazon. So it's really interesting that our mission is to be the world's most customer-centric company. And then basically, how we define success in terms of what that actually means, translated into practical terms, is that when we are able to deliver the best possible experience for the customers, that's what it means to be successful in being the world's most customer-centric company. And you'll also read this kind of thing, and there's a little bit of paranoia almost, in a sense of urgency behind all of this. And when you think about this, Amazon competes against some of the world's biggest and the best. Walmart is not an easy competitor to compete against. Netflix, who is also one of our biggest customers, but our customers are choosing between streaming something on Netflix or Prime Video or Hulu. They're all AWS customers, but there's a bit of this idea that in this digital age, customers can make choices and they can change their mind very quickly. So it's not about really just being good enough or just being fast enough or being quirky and pleasant enough. It's really about setting the highest bar and consistently pushing the boundaries of what the customer should expect. And that's kind of the context behind why Amazon really has been applying AI ML at scale for more than 15 years. So the mission is clear. But the extra dimension of the challenge that Amazon has is this idea that they want to do this at Amazon's speed and scale. And as you guys know, achieving both is incredibly difficult for any company, let alone Amazon. So the thesis of this session today is that for Amazon, at the speed and scales that it wants to interact with its customers, delivering the best possible experience is simply impossible without the practical applications of AI ML everywhere. And I kind of enjoy talking about the good old AI ML, because frankly, that's what Amazon runs on. And I'm pretty sure that that's what Amazon continue to run and grow on for a very long time, while we all collectively learn more about then what does Gen AI mean for us in the future. So let's dive in. Now, to set the context for Amazon's business, how many of you have actually traveled from international to be here today? Great, welcome, thanks for being here. How many of you actually shop on Amazon? Okay, all of you and the ones from international, thanks for being Amazon.com's customers. For those of you who live in the States, and these are American statistics, this will feel kind of close to home. I didn't know about this until we had to pull up the stats. Basically, 6 out of 10 of us, our households has Amazon Prime membership. And for those of you, because I'm slightly older, who are between the ages of 30 and 39, 80% of you have an Amazon Prime membership, which is more significant. And Amazon can deliver packages anywhere in the world in 2 days or less. So sometimes your orders takes longer, sometimes it's shorter. Our average global average for package delivery is 1.9 days. That's more than twice the fastest of any comparable operator of our size. So it is very significant. And one of the most important aspects of kind of Amazon shopping experience is not the fact that we deliver packages fast, but we actually make a promise to you when you're consider buying a product. And the customer promise, this feature is literally called the customer promise, is if you complete the purchase of this product in the next 2 hours and 8 minutes, we guarantee delivery by tomorrow. Now, we may not meet that promise 100% of the time, but we try our darn best to make it as close to 100% as possible, because making a promise is pretty useless if we keep failing you. And at some point, you either get cynical and don't believe in this, and then you start your shopping somewhere else. But hopefully, if you're like me, this is almost like a Swiss train running on time. Like, I will basically take my kids to camping this weekend, and the camping stove that I order right now, maybe after the session, it better be at my house tomorrow morning before we set out for the mountains, and that's kind of how reliable it needs to be. Now, that seems pretty simple in a micro scale, but think about the macro scale, what Amazon has to operate, and there's a lot of complexity behind what we do. Did you know that Amazon sells more than 400 million unique products? So when you think about it, there are literally billions of products that are kind of slushing around in a supply chain, either coming into our warehouses, or what we call fulfillment centers, or on various stages of delivery, or various stages of handling within our centers. So there's a lot of moving pieces that involve millions of people, vehicles, and other things to orchestrate. And in order for us to be able to make a promise to you and keep it, and as Werner said, and be very cost efficient about it, we gotta be incredibly good at managing this complexity using data and machine learning. And the idea is this: the only way that you can actually stay on top of the complexity instead of being crushed by it is the idea that if you're able to understand the state of everything that you operate, and everything that matters to you, and in our case, where is the package at any given second, what is the operating condition of our warehouses in that given second, what is the condition of our third-party logistics provider, what is the condition of traffic in certain places, what is the weather condition in places where we expect to deliver packages by tomorrow. If we know all of this information, and if we can actually apply intelligence and automate our decisions on top of that, what are the kind of opportunities and solution opportunities that we can actually go after? And this question, or this line of thinking, is what I want you to keep in mind as we now dive into those use cases. So here's the first one. Let's say that I live in Chicago. I do live in Chicago, and I just decided to buy a camping stove. Great. Which fulfillment center, we have hundreds of them, should actually originate the product to deliver to me? Now, if I don't have a lot of intelligence or am not very sophisticated, maybe the most obvious answer is whatever is the fulfillment center that is closest to Chung's house should be the one where a person would find the item and then put it on a van or trailer and send it to Chung's house. So that's solving for the obvious without data. But what if you were able to solve for these kind of parameters? And this is not a comprehensive list. But what if we actually knew the unit handling cost by our fulfillment center, by shift in a given period, and say, hey, Chung, the one that is closest to your house might be on the Wisconsin border, and the unit cost handling of that center might actually be a lot higher than a fulfillment center that might be farther away. There's also shipping cost, and surely there's a function of distance. There's also a function of who is actually handling the shipping. How efficient are they? What kind of vehicles are they using? Are there some instances where we actually have to get two different products because Chung said for some reason he needs a camping stove and he needs a little headlamp for the kids, and they have to come from different places? But somehow Chung said, I also want that in the same package. So now they have to collect it together and send it to me. And what is the opportunity cost of shipping a package from one place, but at the same time, there might be a peaking demand for that same product in that area where we wish that we held back some items to be able to do that. So let's kind of get into this scenario of how Amazon solves for this. And in this case, let's say that it's a customer in Washington, D.C., that says, I want to buy those antibacterial soaps, and you promise me that you'll get it to me by tomorrow. So what you see here is kind of a light up of all the different fulfillment centers that can potentially deliver to the customer. The ones in green can actually meet our promise and within a threshold of cost kind of a tolerance. The ones in orange can meet 2 days, but it's going to cost us a lot. The ones in red will not miss kind of the delivery. And what Amazon does is that it computes all the different cost factors and basically decides, in this instance, that instead of the 5 or 6 different fulfillment centers that might be really close to the customer in Washington, D.C., that might be in Virginia or New Jersey or Philadelphia, interestingly, the fulfillment center in Akron, Ohio, might be the best center to originate that item. And for anyone who's a basketball fan, LeBron James, Akron, Ohio, that's 1,000 kilometers away from where the customer is. Now, why is that? In this specific instance, Amazon knows that there's actually a trailer that's going to head out of that fulfillment center in the next 5 hours, that's going to actually head out to a kind of a last mile delivery depot by the customer. And if we can get the package onto the truck in the next 5 hours, and if you know that the customer can complete the purchase in 2 hours, because our SLA for package handling from when the order comes in to when the item is actually found, packaged, and then shipping label put on, and put onto an outbound vehicle is within less than 3 hours, we can make the promise, and it's going to be significantly cheaper than other options. So that's how Amazon calculates that thing. By the way, this happens twice as this customer is trying to buy the soap. First time, when the customer actually brings up the detailed description, and we make the promise, and the second time when the customer actually complete the purchase. So maybe within the 3 minutes or 10 minutes that the customers took from adding the item to the cart or when they browse the item to when they complete the purchase, the conditions might have shifted. And when we compute this, the graphic might be different. And this time, maybe we might have missed that trailer. It might have to come from somewhere different. We make that computation again so that we can actually optimize for what we know in the very given second when the customers make the decision. So here's kind of a thinking from our founder, our CEO, Andy Jassy, that says, look, speed is really important, but it's not just given to Amazon because we're called Amazon.com and we're a tech company. It's a choice that we had to make. And it's something that we had to work for a very long time, establishing the right culture of urgency and experimentation to apply the technology, not for the sake of technology, but to really solve for some really cool customer experiences that we know our customers will be delighted by, that they won't get anywhere else. And you just can't flip on a switch and just buy something and get that speed. Surely there's some awesome tools and platforms that helps make it a lot easier than 15 years ago when Amazon was trying to do this. But it's something that you have to work consistently over time in terms of culture, your processes, the mindset, the spirit of experimentation. And Kendra later on is going to actually kind of share some insights on how Amazon has been doing that at scale of our enterprise for the last 15, 20 years. Now, I'm just going to cover 2 more use cases relatively quickly, because you probably want to hear about Gen AI as well. Amazon also has been applying machine learning to make sure that the items that you're purchasing are going to be, there's no risk related to food or product safety risk. My kid has a peanut allergy, so whenever I buy some food product, I look at the label of the ingredient like the Bible to make sure that there's no nut items. But sometimes the manufacturers miss labeling one very important thing that says, hey, this item does not have nut products, but it was actually handled in a facility that handles nut products. Buyers beware, but sometimes there might be that label missing, and then if I was to buy it, then my kid is in trouble. Now, how Amazon used to handle this before machine learning was actually fairly straightforward. We'll figure out if there's some significant issues with a lot of customer complaints or something in the newspaper that says, oh my goodness, there might be an elevated risk with this product that we're selling. Then go tag the item in our system to have somebody investigate and then figure out if it is true and there is an issue and you handle it. Now, what's the limitation of this approach? The thing is that there's only a limited amount of things that we can actually apply this process. We sell more than 400 million unique items. So which one do you look at? And everything is reactive. Somebody was harmed, and it was big enough or frequent enough so that it became a priority for us to resolve. And unfortunately, when they did this with machine learning, 90% of the things that we thought had the issue did not. There was a false alarm. So Amazon was only able to basically handle and remove actual issues for hundreds of products a year. With machine learning-based solutions that they implemented in production 5 years ago, now they can actually handle significantly more, like literally hundreds and thousands of more volumes of products. 35% of the things that this model actually tags are predictive, and 90% turns out to have an elevated issue. So that means hundreds of thousands of products are basically taken off our shelf at any given year so that you guys can be safe. And imagine that if we sell 100 of that product in a given year, the impact to our customer is not just millions, but billions of instances where we kept our customers safe. Now, another kind of example, and my final example before I hand over the mic to Ricardo, is shipping packaging. So for those of you who's been shopping with Amazon for a while, hopefully you would have noticed that we're sending you a lot less of these cardboard boxes versus a lot more of these flexible envelope mailers. Now, why do we do that? Because these envelope mailers are significantly cheaper. And when I say cheaper, and again, going back to what Werner said, cost and carbon go together. When we reduce the cost, carbon is reduced. When we're able to ship packages that are half the size and just 1/4 the weight, we can literally send you more packages without adding a single truck. So at Amazon's volume, even if we're able to actually divert 10% of your orders from these packages, from these cardboard to the packages, we can literally ship 30% more items to you without adding an extra truck on the road. So that's really important. So how do we decide when Chung orders his camping stove for camping tomorrow, whether that thing goes into cardboard or envelope mailer? So let's kind of use your input to decide what we do. Here's a 20-ounce kind of a bottle of shampoo. I chose it because, embarrassingly, I have some dandruff issues. Now, by show of hands, team cardboard or team envelope, who thinks that this liquid-filled 20-ounce bottle of plastic should go into cardboard if you were to order this item and you want to make sure that this item comes to your home safely? Cardboard? Great. Envelope mailers? Great. It's like literally half and half. Toss a coin and maybe we'll make that decision. And that was exactly the way that Amazon used to make decisions. Depending on whether it's John or Chung or Maria being given the assignment to say, hey, we have this new product, where should we go? They will say, yeah, I've seen things break before. It's going to go into cardboard. They're going to enter that into the system, and henceforth, any Head & Shoulders product that is 20 ounces is going to go into cardboard forever until somebody else has a shift to change their mind. What's more impactful? this might be the leading dandruff shampoo, but we might be selling 200 other SKUs or products of same dimensions. That rule just got applied to 200 other products. That's how, because you cannot inspect every single item. So same thing. Amazon was only able to make judgments on a fraction of the items, fraction of a percentage of the item that it sells. We have a lot of customer input, feedback from customers and things. None of that was used by Chung when he decided, yeah, I think I'm going to put this into a cardboard. 100% rely on human judgment. So what does that mean? If I'm not sure, I'm going to choose cardboard. I don't think I'm going to get fired for putting things on cardboard. And that's what happened. Now, Amazon has been applying machine learning on models built on SageMaker to solve for this. Now, 100% of the decision is being made by the model, 100% based on data intelligence, based on the information that it reads, that our customers have told us, our associates know that are in the system to make an optimized decision. So, and here's some things. It got so good that you can actually solve for other things other than just fragility. Here's an amazing book of Shakespeare's best works, collected items, beautifully bound, and Amazon is amazing. This is cheaper than the latest paperback from Nora Roberts. For those of you who know Nora Roberts, you're kind of my tribe. But where should this book go? Again, cardboard, flexible envelope mailers. Most of you said the latter. What I know is when I buy this, I am not buying this to read. I am buying this to put on my bookshelf to impress my smarter friends that I have these kind of books. This is not a book. It's a decoration. And Amazon knows the intent that when customers buy this book, it cannot be dented when we deliver, because this is meant to be an ornament, not a book. Here's another one. Where should this go? Boxes or mailers? Boxes? Mailers. Oh, half and half. For my children, this is just a toy. So when it comes, they're going to rip open the box and start building it. For some who are Lego collectors and know that the last time that they had like this national mission thing was back in 2001, and this is the first time they released it, this might be a collector's item. So in this case, we might put this into a box, even though 49 other products that have similar kind of dimensions may actually go up and end up in an envelope mailer because it's a toy. So the business impact is real and compelling. In the last 7 years that Amazon has really been trying to do this, and we actually had some significant unlocks with machine learning, Amazon was able to basically replace half the packages they were sending with cardboard now with these flexible envelope mailers. So this year, you should be seeing a lot more of your products being delivered in these envelope mailers versus cardboard boxes. So that's a win for you because you have less things to throw away, win for Amazon because we put less trucks on the road, and win for the environment because we're creating less carbon and less landfill to do the same thing for you. So the final things I want to say is, look, meeting some of these things that customers want from an online retailer, when you meet these basic needs, yes, it's great. It satisfies customer needs. But when you're able to understand, have the data, and be able to apply intelligence on top of the data, we can actually solve for opportunities to truly delight customers. So instead of just saying, hey, we can deliver the package to you by next day if you order in the next 2 hours and 8 minutes, we can also say, hey, look, we certainly can do that, but if you're willing to wait another day, we have found ways to reduce the carbons related to the shipping the item for you by half. Would you be willing to make that choice with us? And when we can opt you into these kind of choices we can make, because we can, given the data and intelligence we can make, that truly delights customers and sets our customers' experience apart from any other vendors they can do business with, because they know and they trust and they believe that you can be opted into our good intents for the environment. So those are the good old kind of use cases. There's significantly more. As you can imagine, our speed and scale runs on these use cases, but we're just as excited about Gen AI as you guys are. So we want to also take an opportunity to share some insights on how Amazon approaches Gen AI. So here's Ricardo.
Thank you. Hey, we are not talking about today how deeply is the Gen AI. Generative AI has been all over all the news. We are talking this all these days, and it's no difference from any other meeting that we probably having that we are using the word of Gen AI, generative AI. But we are talking here about how Amazon applied it and how we can thinking on use cases that are bringing more ideas how to solve the business problems. Amazon always looking for opportunities to improve our business. Imagine this size of the business that Chung was telling us, and we'd be able to improve this by 1%, 2% in things that we are doing. This optimizes a huge amount of things, and this will be able to change the needle, to move the needle. So when we're thinking on Gen AI, is part of our AI/ML for a long time history. Is another tool, is another line of thinking that we are going deeper on that. For people who are not very used to Gen AI, or if you wanted to remember, thinking on generative AI as part of artificial intelligence that you can create things. You can use it just to build images of products that even doesn't exist. You can use this to build movies, small films, and whatever you want. Summarize text, building new images, new things. Using generative AI can help us to think on how to collect the data, but it doesn't need to have all the information up front. Use a large amount of data that have been collected. Then we call these a part of the foundation models. So these foundation models that is part of the Amazon, AWS, or other companies that are partner of us, build these foundation models for you to use this and to create these solutions around it. When you're talking about the interest of AI/ML or generative AI at Amazon, we are talking about main three areas. The first one is how generative AI can impact and can influence the services. That is basically typically what we are seeing here at AWS in all these days, Amazon Bedrock, Titans, and many others. And we are launching other services and systems like an Amazon Q and things that we are using to build these foundation models directly or with partners that help us to elaborate it more. These large language models that runs on top of the foundation models that help us to imagine new things. And it's sort of like the same philosophy as AWS. We are democratizing the access of the generative AI for people who want to solve things and build the things. So if you are interested to play with PartyRock at AWS, you see that how you can use these models to experiment around it. Another area that we experiment at Amazon is how you leverage end user tools. End user tools can help at the individual productivity. At Amazon, we use the Amazon Code Whisper that help us that runs on AWS, that help us the developers, the engineering teams to develop code 57% faster and 27% more likely to be accurate, to be more secure. So that is not only a tool to help it to develop faster, but also to deliver it more secure. And that is an opportunity to leverage the individuals in this. And the third one is how we augmented the services, how we can experiment, how we can extend the customer services, the customer experience. And we'll be focusing on this part today. So when we're talking about the business services and the platform level, we're thinking on different efforts that artificial intelligence, machine learning can help with us. Generative AI is just an extension of this, but unleash a lot of other things. As we are talking, the difference between the foundation models and the traditional models are where we had to started from the machine learning, the traditional machine learning with the questions. So if you don't have the data, if you don't have train the model, if you don't deploy the model, you cannot use it. But you have to do this by each of the tasks. The task level is one thing that determined all the whole chain. When you're talking about the generative AI, the foundation models rules. The foundation models are unlabeled data that build the foundation models that you can use it to adapt the answer. So you have an untrained data, you have the foundation models that help you to address different questions. And the models help you to run these tasks that are not even sometimes predicted. So you can use this to build images, you can use this to summarize a text, you can use this for different things. And even the users can think in new ways that you are not aware of that the same foundation models be able to support. Applying this to our reality at Amazon, we always thinking about the opportunity versus the risk. We cannot play with the risk, we cannot play with the customer services. We cannot play that is with the trust from the customers. And we apply this in 3 main areas. So for us, things that are non-negotiable are these 3 points: the unknown data provenance, the cost of implications, and the unpredictable behaviors. We cannot afford that a model be having an hallucination and generated things that are not true. In order to use these guardrails as our opportunities, we developed 3 strategies to unbound these guardrails. We generated the response as much as using the AI. We are focusing on our opportunities, and we give it the users the opportunity to make the decisions. These 3 strategies runs on different different cases. We have it here a few illustrative examples that are coming true, and we expected that it become true very fast. So for example, for the agent at a customer service, imagine that they have a huge amount of data, and then you can summarize it, all the calls, and you can summarize it, calls that are received from other people, for other colleagues, and they can extract it in alternatives, and they can give it you like an opportunity or give it you ideas about what to do. So, but at the end of the day, they are giving you suggestions, not making decisions. The end user is doing that. This is well connected with the presentations that Adam did at the keynote, talking about the Connect. Other example is how we'll be able to give it insights, not only for the customers, but for the sellers. So how can the sellers can use the data that they have about their product to make it decisions if they will act it or not? So in this model, we can use the data. We can present the opportunities, like you can be more efficient. If you put like people are more willing to buy like 2 products together, 2 shampoos together than 1, things like that. But I'm the seller. I'm deciding if I will adapt it for these suggestions that a Gen AI is giving me or not. It's also coming true. We are having a lot of experiences on that. There are another illustrative examples is imagine a small business that you are running, that you are selling, putting your products in our marketplace, but you don't have a lot of money to invest in on marketing, to do like beautiful campaigns, videos, and using social media. And we can use the services from Amazon that helps you to get the picture that you took it from your product and build it like a very beautiful 30 seconds video that you can upload it online and help you to increase the sales. But I'm the owner of the business, and I can decide if this video is good enough or if I needed to change the background because they put the product in a background that I don't like it. So we can make it these decisions. And it's also becoming true. Yeah. Another example that we have that is became implemented already, that was communicated, is you as a buyer. We have a lot of people here that is buying in AWS, in Amazon, and we read a lot of the customer reviews, right? So imagine that you have like a summary of the customer reviews, and that's already in production. That it has a comment here that was generated by generative AI, but it's your choice to use it or not. But it summarized it like 3,000 reviews in a few lines. So to recap the possible experiences that we have, we know that innovation is not new for Amazon for AI ML, but we use it generative AI in ways to invent new things, to extend what we know, to enrich the experiences for the users using these boundaries, to augment what we know, to make the suggestions, to extend the knowledge, to personalize these experiences going further, and to automatize all the solutions. So you get more and use it to review the models, review the things that we have to rebuild it. And now let's shift it to Kendra to talk a little bit more about our lessons learned and the most important parts that we learned along these more than 15 years. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ricardo. So you've learned today a lot of the things of how, one, we're reducing costs, utilizing ML, how we are improving sustainability, and ultimately improving the overall customer experience that you're having. But through that whole process, there's a lot of learnings that we've gotten through this journey, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about this now, and get into what you can do as an organization to kind of operate at scale when it comes to leveraging AI ML. But before we get into that, let's take a look at some of the blockers when it comes to leveraging ML at scale, right? This is a survey done by O'Reilly just last year on the adoption of AI within the enterprise, right? And I can assume that by a raise of hands, how many of you all have experienced some of these same issues when looking to leverage ML within your organization, right? And so you see here that it really comes down to really, four of these key areas here around, the skills and people that we have in place, having the actual data and the quality issues intact, having, the mindset and the culture in place to really leverage this technology to operate at scale. And this is some of the same issues within Amazon that we had to face as well when we first started on this journey. But what we found was there's kind of a systematic approach that you can take to really solving these, right? It really starts with having that mindset first. Looking at an executive level on what are our culture and mindset around how we're going to leverage machine learning, and using that to kind of set the goals we have as an organization, and then allowing that to flow down throughout the rest of the teams within the organization. And then once you start to do that, really enabling the teams to take on that ownership of building out these different ML experiences. And once you start to gain momentum there, you start to realize, all right, now that we're doing these pieces, we really have to have the data in place and having that good foundation around data in order to really enable and operate at scale. And then the most critical piece with that is really finding the right first project. You want something there that can be done quickly, 60 to 90 days, but done in a way that provides substantial impact, right? And so what that does is it allows the business to really see the value of leveraging that technology, and overall improves the culture of saying, hey, we need to continue to leverage this and continue to expand this and scale it out throughout the rest of the organization. And so the way that we really set that mindset and culture within our organization in Amazon was really asking the question how we will use machine learning. And this is a question that is asked of each and every team of Amazon. Thousands and thousands of teams are asking this question each and every year as they go through their annual planning process. And what this really does is really sets the mindset for those teams on not when or if we're going to use machine learning, but how. And so what that does is really gets them to think about who is our customer and how are we going to apply machine learning to improve those experiences for those customers. And with that, beginning to set our short-term and long-term goals around how we're going to leverage this technology. And once you start to do that, it really starts to begin to think about, how are we going to support and enable our teams to be able to leverage this technology. One of the key pieces there is how we are organized and structured within the organization. Typically within a lot of organizations that I talk with, they have their business teams, they have their technical teams, but neither know what each other does, right? And so there's a lot of, smoking mirrors or, shadows on what actually happens behind the scenes when it comes to leveraging a lot of the technologies. But what we did as Amazon was really sort of think about breaking down those siloed teams and bringing them together in what we call cross-functional teams. Really having these domain experts, those that knows the business, as well as those technical experts, those that really know the technical tools needed, and bringing them together and sort of create teams that are a mixture of both. And what that does is, and this is a really critical piece where each side understands what the other needs in order to enable that customer experience. And so now what they start to do is thinking about, what is those tangible business outcomes that we want to have, and how do we enable those with working together? Once we have, that alignment from a mindset, and once we start to think about, how we're structured as an organization, we also need to think about, what tools are we going to utilize to really enable our teams. And this here really shows a breadth of the stack of different services that we have within Amazon that are leveraged. But you'll see here that there's a diverse set of tools, some that are simple yet powerful to use, but also some that require a little bit more expertise and can get a little bit more granular. And while all these services are used, each team is on a different journey. Wherever they start is different from another team, and how they grow and continue on that journey is different from team to team within the organization. But the real key here is not choosing a particular tool just because of they love this widget or love how this tool operates, but really looking at what is that business problem we're trying to solve, what is that customer experience we're trying to improve upon, and then working backwards from that and really identifying what tools helps us achieve the outcome that we're looking for when solving that business problem. One of the things that we said in our earlier days within Amazon was, data beats intuition. Essentially what that means is, if I have the right data, I can really solve those customer problems. And so when you start to build out these teams and start to build out these ML algorithms and things, you really need the data to really, scale that and make it possible. And many organizations, this is where, we've done these POCs and now we're ready to scale, but then we realize, oh, we don't have the data foundation in place to really enable this, right? And I like to think of this as an iceberg. We have, that generative AI model at the tip of the iceberg. We have that ML model, but beneath the surface, it's really that mindset, how the teams are organized, the data foundation we have in place, and how we're going to solve those customer experiences. And so the data piece is really key, and it was key within Amazon. We found that, in our legacy enterprise data warehouse, the way that we operated, how we were structured internally, wasn't going to be able to scale and meet the experiences that we had, right? So just 7 years ago, we really went under a transformation of how we leverage data internally. We were more of a monolithic type organization, centralized IT team, and they were slow to really operate in a lot of areas because there was a bottleneck on enabling a lot of these experiences that these line of businesses wanted to enable. So what we did was really rethink of how we are going to enable our line of businesses to utilize this technology in order to improve the overall experiences of their end customers. So there's 3 areas we want to look at there. One being, what is the security mechanisms we're going to use, right? Security is job number 1 within Amazon. So we wanted to make sure we had our data secure, but also having it on a platform that is able to scale as we continue to scale and grow within our businesses. The other thing was thinking about how we are structured, right? Instead of having a monolithic organization with one central IT team, really breaking that down and having what we call producers and consumers within our organization, and having those that are responsible for these transactional systems really also own turning those transactional data into analytical data that can be leveraged for things like ML algorithms. And then on the other hand, having those consumers to really own their own data engineering processes and building of those ML models as well. And then the last piece was really removing a lot of those heavy lifting tasks, right? Instead of me needing to set up a lot of custom manual things in order to create those data pipelines, getting access to the data, waiting weeks to get access to the data, really removing a lot of that and implementing a lot of automation within that process. And so when we did that, what we really did was start to rethink of how we were structured and the technologies that we were using. So from the security and performance at scale, we utilized S3, right? They gave us the security out of the box with some of the security mechanisms that we have within Amazon S3, and also it gave us the scalability and performance that we wanted with accessing the data. The second thing was we started to operate in what we call a data community, right? With those producers and consumers, and we created what we call a data marketplace. All right, in this marketplace, you can think of as just like Amazon.com. Users within this marketplace can come in, search for data products, and go and look into that data product and understand who makes it, how often it's updated, when's the next update happening, all of these pieces that you expect when it comes to understanding what a data product is. And done it in such a way that anyone within an organization can understand it, business or technical. And then the other piece was removing a lot of that heavy lifting with providing automation around, no matter if I'm using Amazon Redshift, Glue, EMR, any compute service that I'm leveraging, I should be able to get access to the data and compute and utilize it in any fashion that I want. And so when we created this piece here, we really found that it really allowed us to scale and meet our demands that we wanted. And so as a result of this marketplace that we built, we created what you know as Amazon Data Zone. Amazon Data Zone is really a child of what we have internally and built internally through the years of our learnings within Amazon. Now, once we have that momentum going around building our teams, have that mindset, and we actually have the foundation in place, we really want to start thinking about what is that first project that we're going to go after, right? And we really want to start thinking about, how do we tackle that, and what is the definition of success we're going to have with that first project? And the key piece here is really balancing the effort with the success chance and the impact that you're going to have within your business and your overall customer experience. And these here are just some common examples of questions that you want to ask to understand, what is the right project for us to do and how we can go about implementing it. The first project, is very key to show the actual impact that the overall ML is going to have and establishing that culture within your organization. The other piece that you want to start thinking about as you start to scale is really removing a lot of those bottlenecks, right? And this is really thinking about how we're going to scale overall, right? I like to call this year the year of the POC. Everyone I talk to is doing a POC around generative AI or just ML in general, right? But what you will see is as more and more are doing POCs, less than half are actually making it to production, right? The reason for that is a lot of these pieces that we talked about prior to this around that mindset, the culture, how the teams are structured, the foundation, and that's really critical in understanding, how can we scale, making sure those pieces are in place so that we're able to see the full ability of machine learning and investment is realized when we are looking to leverage this technology. So this here is just really a illustrative example of some of those key activities that go into the ML development lifecycle, right? You can see that there's a significant amount of inspiration alignment that goes into that, and it's a real big investment. In Amazon, there's been a lot of learnings around, the platforms and tools that have been built, a lot of it being custom, right? Just because of where we were at the time and how we grew, we built a lot of custom pieces. But what that also caused was a lot of these undifferentiated tasks around manual scripts that have to be run, manual upkeep, monitoring of different areas of the tools that we're utilizing. And so what that forces us to do is really pay what we call this hidden cost, right? The cost that we're spending on the upkeep and maintenance of a lot of platforms whereas spending time on improving the overall customer experience. And so what we've done really was start to leverage a lot of these modern platforms. And what this does is allows us to really focus more on improving that customer experience, how we're using machine learning and utilizing either SageMaker or Bedrock in order to improve those experiences while also improving that speed and agility. And it's not just only about the speed and agility that we're trying to do here. We really want to think about how can we improve the processes of ourselves internally as well. A great example of this is, initially when we started on this journey, it was 4 engineers to 1 data scientist within each team. By us really removing a lot of these bottlenecks, improving our automation, being able to operate at scale, we've now gone to more of a 1-to-1 ratio in those teams and how we operate. So in closing here, we really want to highlight, Amazon is all about customer session, right? Shun started off talking about how we utilize customer session as really the driving force in all that we do, right? And that really keys in on how we identify, what those customer needs are and how we can improve the experiences. Using that approach, we kind of work backwards and understand how we're going to utilize machine learning and setting that culture on how we can improve those overall experiences and utilizing the technology more so as the scaling mechanism in order to do that at scale within all of our lines of businesses. And as we're doing that, one of the key things that we're doing is building and influencing a lot of the products that we offer within AWS itself. So as we continue to utilize these products and find where enhancements can be made, we do so not only to benefit us internally, but you as well as a customer. Great examples are SageMaker, Bedrock, or even Amazon Q that we highlighted this earlier this week. So taking these same considerations in place, what we've highlighted throughout this presentation is some of the things you can do within your organization as well when you're thinking about scaling and creating these new machine learning experiences. So as we wrap up here, I definitely want to bring back on Chung and Ricardo to talk through any questions that you may have around some of the pieces that we talked through within this presentation.